Well, hello, hello. Oh,
I'm unmuted.
now you're
Sorry.
unmuted. There we
Yeah,
go.
I'm muted
Starting
because
it off
like, I
right.
realized I don't have headphones in. If they can in fact hear us,
They,
then
I,
it's
I
persistent,
think
like a
people,
looping, like a
if you
garbage
all,
looping
yeah,
situation.
exactly. If you all can hear us, do a little comment for us right there.
Here we go. Oh, come on. I'm assuming by David's comment, he can absolutely hear us.
Yaz is shouting, absolutely. Josh, I can hear you, and Will, fine. There we go.
Perfect. Also, the answer is yes, Emmett. The background is a Mid-Journey generated background.
You're starting off right? Like you got to use you've already riffed and refined like your own background too.
Exactly.
So like now,
absolutely. Well, I knew Josh was. You're showing up with like a world-class background. Meanwhile, like currently my background is like a bed and a bunch of children's toys. So
nice. I finally got this new chair so I can like sit while I'm here as well as standing up. So it's like
that it was like
it's like a
got,
tall chair.
fancy one. Yeah, it looks like a 80s retro like color scheme too. Like it's got that like burnt orangey red color.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of going for like that yellow. So I got a 3D printer and I printed off this little thing for my microphone too. It's like and like
so that it
yellow on
like
my wall,
like the waves or whatever.
Yeah, well, this is more just like for color, for show.
Just for your pop,
for show.
pop style.
Yeah, I'm trying out a new brand identity.
There we go. Speaking of brand identities, still working on yours. Got a little distracted with still this working. One. Which why don't we just go ahead and kick things off with like why we're even here, what we're doing.
Yeah, let's do it.
Josh hit me up probably like 4 months ago, like right before like Laracon, like sometime like right after Laracon, when Aaron was like, also like Will made this brand for all these things, and Josh was like, dude, can you help me do my brand? And I'm like, very busy, but yes, yeah, I would love to. So
I think you said after React Miami talked.
Yes, after React Miami.
Literally, I think I messaged you the day after React Miami.
Literally, like I think we had just gotten like our flight landed, and I turned airplane mode off, and Josh was like, "So, how about that brand?" So
I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're done.
Yeah, I started working on that, and as I was working on it, and Josh, you were explaining to me kind of like what you are going for the future of like your content and like the things that you're wanting to make. I was like, like this is really resonating with me personally. Like I like this. I like your direction with this. I think we are headed in the same direction in terms of like the things that we enjoy consuming, as well as the things we enjoy creating, as well as the things that we're trying to do. So I was like, I just messaged you and was like, hey, what if we did something together instead? Not instead. Yeah. And yes, and improv style. Like, would you be down to also do something with me?
Yeah, and like you had messaged me that, and yeah, I was in the chat. You're saying, is it Taco Bell related? It wasn't Taco Bell related. Although the old school Taco Bell, like purple and like teal vibes, that's a vibe coded Taco Bell.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that's what Taco Bell would have looked like if it was vibe coded by people in 2025. But yeah, when Will kind of messaged me about like, hey, like what would you think about doing a podcast together? Like, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm down because like I don't have a good outlet currently for things of being able to say like, oh, here's something that I want to talk about, or like just riff on and stuff like that. I have my social media channels. And this was like one of the biggest reasons why I like reached out to Will in the first place about my kind of like updating my brand and stuff like that. Was like, I have my social channels and I have my YouTube channel, but that's about it. And I don't have like a good place to kind of like share what I'm thinking about when I'm building things, or even just the things I'm building that don't come to fruition, in the sense that like sometimes like it just doesn't work. Emmett says get a blog, and that is definitely one reason I wanted the brand, because I wanted my blog to actually look good.
Mhm.
Of course, you have to like rebuild a blog like 10 times before you can actually write anything, right?
Oh,
That's just
absolutely.
how it goes.
But unless you have like the perfect website, blogging just doesn't work. I hear people can't see it.
I also suck at writing. That's one thing I want to get better at, because I talk better, and some people
Mhm.
might be like, "Yeah, you don't talk better," but I can explain my thoughts better, and I do like a lot of like the new AI stuff that's helping
Yeah,
me
yeah,
like
yeah.
write better, or at least put my thoughts out
Mhm.
onto paper better. But
Yep.
yeah, I have not been a good writer.
Mhm.
So
I
wait,
think
why did you reach out initially? Like I know
okay,
like
so
the me
I
talking to you.
right. I reached out because I've just been doing like I've been guesting on a number of podcasts recently, and I've just been, like I've been on this quote unquote journey, as I said like a couple years ago, of just like I want to make things more publicly and like interact with people more, and like just make more space for serendipity in my life with like my internet friends and internet people. So that has been going very well. And I feel like the only thing that I have missing at this point, I tried to start it up a couple months ago when I started Strong Opinions Weekly Held.
Okay.
And then Allie entered the scene on that one through my like I requested her to join. And
Yeah.
then like that has now turned into something a lot more personal, and like more like casual and family slash like it's not very like work and creative
Okay.
related. And I love doing that. And I was like, I don't want to change this or stop doing this, but I want like a creative outlet that's the same way, where it's like I can talk like you said. I've gotten a lot better at writing recently due to like reps, the old riff and refine. Like I just need to write a bunch and try to refine it. But I like yapping. I'm just a yapper. I love doing it.
Just just a yapper.
And I wanted to talk to somebody like every week and just talk about like everything. There's just so much going on. And there's so many things that I want to be doing. And I think that's just like I want to like talk like you have this like very good like Venn diagram of like the same as me, which is like most of my Venn diagram is made up of like me just wanting to make things. And then it overlaps in like the serendipity that comes from making things is made better by like sharing it, publishing that.
Hmm.
And I think I saw you and I saw someone who was like, your interests are a lot more aligned with the actual publishing side of things. Like, how do you edit things? How do you create content and media? I'm not very good or don't have like a good gut with that. Like my gut is all on like engineering and design, that those type of things.
Yeah.
So I just figured like it would feel better um, with like two people who were directionally headed in the same direction, but we've got very like complementary skill sets and interests. And I just want to share more about like what I'm thinking and like what I'm interested in and like what I'm moving towards, mixed with, so this is kind of getting into like what we're trying to do here. So like what we're going to try to do here, I think, based on like what I understand.
Okay.
Welcome to the first episode where me and Josh are literally going to just talk to each other about like what are we doing here. The way I think of it is like
So
we are
just to be sure, for like people who are listening or watching right now, like we have not like thought through
no
this, right?
we've got a Notion doc with like rough ideas of like, is this what we
I
want?
pulled it up
But
this
like,
morning too. Like
yes,
that was the
exactly.
first
Yeah,
time I looked at this Notion doc.
yeah. And so I was just like, listen, um, I think the way I'm thinking about it is I think it would be interesting to have like 75-25 or 60-30, whatever the percentage is, 70-30. I'm not good at public math. Where it's like it's mostly us, just us doing like updates on like what we're working on. I also want to do like updates on like what are like links, like what are
Hmm.
things that we've seen that are just like super interesting and inspiring to us and like
Okay.
inspiring our work. Because I think like one thing um, that I've been thinking a lot about lately is like AI is like eating our industry in some sense. It's eating the mind share of this industry, and I think like
Interesting.
tooling continues to get better for it. It's only going to get better.
Yeah.
However, there's like a there's like a dichotomy with that, which is like as that stuff increases, people are going to want more humanity in things. Like we want more like we want something we can trust. So it's like curated things from people that we know and trust is a lot has a lot more impact to me than like a bunch of AI posts of like, you'll never guess what AI did this week. Like, no, like I want something like Aaron's newsletter inspired me a lot on this, where his is just like, this is like the good parts of Twitter. I want to do that with like the inspiring, like the creatively inspiring parts of the internet, where it's like, I've been noticing these things. I think they are inspiring my work in this. Like I'm now working on this, this, and this. These are inspired by like these things that I've seen this week. And like AI is still important to be like, I think it would be also cool to be like, here's something new that I tried with AI. It did not work. Or like this actually did work. Like y'all should try this out too. Like this really leveled up my workflow, that kind of stuff. So like that's the us thing.
Yeah.
And then we have like the guest thing, which is like, I think we want to like bring people on who like are just making cool things to talk about the cool things that they're making. Like, why are you making this? What is the goal in making this? And like be able to like take their work as like inspiration as a designer. I keep saying inspiration, like the things that AI can't take from us is like our taste, our taste, the soul that we put into our work, and like the craft that we put into it. And like those three things, like taste requires like repeatedly consuming things that are like not in your medium, just like a bunch of different things, and being able to like filter those through to say like, this is what's good and here's why it's good. That's like your taste, is like how you can look at things, creative things in the world, and say, this is good and these are the exact reasons why. And then like the soul is like, well, how do you like, yes, this can be good, but like, how do you bring emotion into your work?
Okay.
And like AI can't really do that. Like that has to come from us. Like we have to understand who's consuming our work and like what emotion do they want to be feeling while they're like interacting with our work. And then like craft, which is just like AI can only do so much. There's that like next level, which is like the more like, even like with AI, the better your craft is, the better you can like pull together these tools to create something even more. Like I see it more as like a accelerant, than like a replacement. So that's like all the things I was like going on with my head, where it's like, man, I want to like have a weekly show where I can just like dump these thoughts. And you felt like the perfect person to do that with, because it's like, I think you feel a lot of the same things. But like, why are you like, why did you say yes? Like when I said all this and brain dumped this entire like idea to you, like, why did you look at that and say like, I'm in?
Yeah. What people aren't understanding also is like when you said that, you also like threatened me that you were going to like find me and, haunt me and stuff like that. So that was the main reason why I said yes. No, I think I said yes mostly because there's a lot of stuff, and like I have this philosophical mindset, and it doesn't make for good content most of the time when you're like, hey, this is the reason why every single night at 11 p.m. till around like 2 a.m. I just tinker and build like weird things, or just like figure out how to build X, Y, or Z. And most of it comes down to like my mindset and philosophy behind like why creativity exists, and why I keep learning things, and why it matters to me from a personal and like, professional perspective too. Yeah, but then also like, so that was one of the main reasons why I think I said yes, because like I want to make that more evident in the stuff that I put out there. Like I want people to like know there's like more sides to me than just like a tech dude, or even just like the PHP Laravel dude kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that's one thing, but then also I also like consistency And like when you're like, hey, I think this should be a weekly show. I think thing that got me excited is kind of just all the things that you mentioned of like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that like I think just lends itself to whether it's like finding people. So if you are someone who's listening to this or watching it right now, who's like, hey, I want to, I built something cool. I want to talk about it. Or like, I'm thinking about building something cool. Let us know. We'll probably get,
you know, okay. I just had this idea. I need to put it in.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. You said, or you're thinking about doing something cool. I think it would be super dope to bring people on who are thinking about doing something cool, who want to like brainstorm. Like, I don't know why we would be like the
to
person
riff on it. You're saying
to, but like, hey, even better. Yeah. Riff, literally riff it. Like, just come on and like talk about why you want to do something, how you want to do something. I can at least talk from like the design side of it. I think Josh would have a lot of good thoughts on like content and like how to like distribute ideas and stuff. Cause I think that's like a big part of it. And like a big thing I've thought about is just like distribution is just changing right now. And so like, what is distribution changing to? Like, I think it's a lot more human. I think it's a lot more personal. People need to like feel emotion in it. Like you can't just be like, hey, I'm making this thing, it solves XYZ problem, and like suddenly have a bunch of customers.
Yep.
Because like there's just too much attention. Like we all have attention saturation. Like we're full of it. So like we've got to be like, you got to do something that stands above the noise.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. So yeah, reach out to us if that's you.
Come on.
That's you.
If it's you.
We'll probably have a more formalized way of doing all of that, but like
we definitely will. We are going to like that is we're riffing right now, but we are going to refine the heck out of it.
Refine it later. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that would be like the best part about the show. Like I mentioned like, hey, we should try doing it live.
Yeah.
Because
just don't even start to plan it. Like you did enough I did enough to set up the stream and like do that. You did enough to like did the like branding and like website.
Right. Just enough to like make it not look boring. But it's like I think we could refine this into like a really good like people come on. Like I want people to show up to this stream with an expectation of like what they're gonna get out of it. Because I think that's how we grow. I don't think you and me are like a Tej and a Primogen to where like I have no idea what's about to happen on this show, but I know it's going to be hilarious or like it's going to be entertaining. Like I hope you like if you like the things that we like and you're interested in the topics we're going to talk about, it is entertaining to you. But like I don't think that we can like come on here and just like, oh, it's going to be like comedy hour. Although Josh, little known fact, or maybe well-known fact that I didn't know, is that Josh actually loves comedy and like tried to get on SNL for a while and like still love like improv and comedy and all that kind of stuff, right?
I still do. I still have like about it ranges depending on like the material I have. I the good thing is AI will never write good comedy material. AI comedy material sucks. I've tried it. But like I have a good like 60, I do like a clean family comedy night every now and then where it's just kind of like open mic of 60 seconds. So I have a good like 60-second, you know, that I refine like every now and then kind of stuff. But it's so much more. I've tried doing like a Zoom comedy thing. It's so hard to do. Like I would never wish the world. I do like sketch comedy, like videos
like
and that kind of
you're
stuff.
doing a bit and like you can do it because it's like been pre-planned and there's like a flow to it for sure. I cannot do humor too well in those type of settings because like my humor, like to me a lot of humor has to do with like timing, like good comedic timing, and the only comedic timing that I have is like when I've got like rapport with the other person, like back and forth in terms of like roasting each other. Like there's a reason that Allie and I like we work really well together, which is just our humor is so similar. Like if if like I'm hanging out, like I'm good in like social settings where we kind of like laugh about whatever's happening or like something that happened in the past and like make fun of each other kind of thing. Like that's when we get like real good belly laughs. But anyway, all that to say, we will hopefully be like lighthearted and enjoyable to watch and entertaining. But I think that like I think we could refine this to have like a good schedule. Like we'll have like segments and like predictable things that like if somebody's coming to watch the show, they can be like, oh, like, yes, I know that like I'm gonna get some like good links for like in things that can inspire me for like the work that I'm doing. Or like, oh, like we know Will and Josh are working on XYZ. Like I would love to know like how, like did that thing that they tried work? Like what are they gonna try next?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. Like where it's like predictable in like very broad. Like
yeah, I like that, and I think like that's like the piece that again, like kind of like why I said yes, or like why I envision like this show kind of is like okay, yeah, like cool name segments. I think like the name of our show, and maybe like after this we can talk about why we decided to name it that.
Yes.
But or like what others, what were some other name options? But like I think the thing that comes to mind,
AI is not always good.
I think that comes to mind for me is like kind of like that accountability of building things too. So like being able to have the consistency thing of like week to week. There's so many things. I literally have like a process of any cool thing I find. I don't have bookmarks. I use the Reflect Notes app. And then I literally, like if it's like a video idea, I put it into linear. And if it's like, if it's just like, oh, I want to check this out, I put it, I tag it in Reflect Notes with like, check it out. And there's so like, I probably have on a week to basis, like probably like 20 or 30 things that are just like, okay, I want to like try out this new library framework, whatever that might be. Or it's just like, hey, this, like I just bookmarked one right before the show called RoboFlow. That's like computer vision tools for developer and enterprises. It's like AI models like specifically for that.
Is that like the thing where like you can do like it detects motion on the screen?
Yep. Like you can detect like different like,
so
cars
that's
and people.
Okay, so I've got that's like already in like I've the section of like links that I want to share on the show. So like there's this guy on Twitter. His name's measure_plan.
Okay.
Like handle, and I want to have him on the show. Because I want like he's like one of the ones I want to talk to where he's like he's literally trying to build like a Jarvis, like a Iron Man interface, and like the experiments that he's doing is just so cool. So
yeah. So I figure like if we have like a place to do that week to week, it could be like a thing of like, oh, here's like the 3 things I want to check out, or like I want to like build and figure out, okay, when would I use this? When would I not use this? Here's what it's good for. Here's what it's not good for.
And then I can be like, did you do it?
Yeah. Did you do it? Or like everyone who's like watching could be like, yeah, you said you were going to do that. Or just like realize the things like, okay, here's my priorities, for the week of like what I want to learn outside of work, outside of all that. Or here's what I want to build, the videos I want to make, that kind of stuff. And like having the structured framework of like, hey, here's what I'm building. Here's the reason why, or I just think it's going to be cool. And like what actually came to that? Like so many things I build that literally either they just kind of like live in some weird form on GitHub and I never like put any content about it or anything like that. And I don't want them to die forever.
Agreed. And like one of the benefits of like I think doing this hopefully is like if this is successful and like whether it is or isn't, I think it's one thing that I'll enjoy doing. That's like the way that I like put the metric out of like, should I pursue this? Is like, if it didn't work out, would I regret having done it? And this is like 1,000,000% not one of those things. Like, I know that even if we only had 5 followers for like forever, I would still enjoy showing up every week and chatting with you about all this kind of stuff. Because I think there's like also like the other side of thing, which is like, hey, like I use this. Here's how it's good, how to use it, what cases I would use it in. But I think there's also times where it's like, for creative, like people like us, we have this like giant list of like, man, I want to try all of these things, but eventually we just like don't try. Like things just like don't get used, even though it looked interesting. And I think it'd be interesting as well to like talk about, well, okay, hey, I never tried this because I never had a pain point big enough that I needed to do that, or like I tried it, it wasn't great. It's not worth the time to invest in doing more of it. Like being able to talk about like the reverse side of it as well, which is just like, I had to filter, like you mentioned, priorities. Like I filtered these things out, even though I'm very interested. And I think maybe like I would laugh so hard because I probably will do that with like something. And then somebody in the audience will just be like, that's a mistake. Like that's actually a dope tool. And I'm like, cool, come on the show and tell me why.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Tell us. Yeah. So 2 questions based off that. Then. 1, would you ever see like a
speaking of humor, Jesse,
Josh and Will, says Jesse,
the
you guys
king,
should make
the
this
king
whole
of
podcast strictly about podcast meta. Then I will start a podcast where all I talk about is your podcast meta. There we go.
really
We
real
found our
Inception situation there, Jesse.
yeah, we found our show topic easily. 2 questions I have for you then, Will.
Okay, hit me.
Do you foresee a segment then of like, okay, you don't have time or you just don't fit a thing? Is there a segment of like live coding, live building something on the show where it's like, hey, I didn't get to check this out. I still think it's cool. And I'm like, hey, I would love to check it out, but it's not like top of my list. Is that something? Or like, are we waiting for someone to bring their thoughts and doing that together?
I think I don't know about that. That'd be interesting. I think if there's something that we both agree on is interesting that we want to try, like we've kind of blocked this time off for it.
Yeah.
And then we can also like create like a different show. We could just be like, yo, this week is like a
it's a special,
like a legit, like more like a programming stream or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
Or like a tool stream, or like we'll figure out some. I'm terrible at naming on the fly.
You know, it's like the Riff Refine
into it, right?
Remix, new remix episode kind of thing.
Yeah. Like something where it's like, listen, like we're going off of our like usual segments where we're just going to try to spend the entire time together exploring this thing that we're interested in.
Like Carl said, let's break stuff together. Be like the Riff and Refine, like only riff, no riff, only refine.
No riff.
Tool time, says Emmett.
No, I love that. I think that'd be great. And I also think like that would be like, okay, we're going deep. We'll take a whole show for that. I think there's also like a smaller version of that where it's like one of us has made something ahead of time, or like there was a technique that we came up with that's like really interesting. That would be worth like doing like a demo segment. I see it being like where it's like, okay, we're not going to like get into the super weeds, but like, can we condense something into, you know, like 10 to 15 minutes of like, I would think of it like a lightning talk where it's like, can you inspire people by showing it off to like maybe be interested in trying or like figuring out how that could work for them.
Okay. So kind of like
I've got one where like there's this new technique. It's not a new technique, but it's just like a technique I've been exploring lately. That is just so simple, but it can have such a big impact for like your designs because of like what you can put into it. So it's like using masking, like clip masking in CSS with SVG, and like it's literally just like 2 images in a SVG shape, and like you can do so many interesting things just playing around with those 3 ingredients. And like I did one where it was just like it's like a little window where you can resize the window and the shape, and it's like a portal into like like the image is like super pixelated or blurry, but like inside that square it's like high definition, and so it's like you can move the window around or resize the window to like view like the larger image kind of thing. So it's like, I don't know, like it's a very easy from like a programming perspective. It's so simple, but like the impact on like design and like ideas that you can come up with just by different ingredients like feels like a super fun thing to like try and demo, like stuff like that where it's like this is very demoable.
Yeah, it sounds like it's one of those things where it's more than just hey, here's this cool thing I found, but less than like here we're dedicating a whole show to it. It's like I like that. I like that. Like like the we'll name a segment after it for sure. The second question I had before we get into the name, because I think the name would be interesting. Second question I had was you mentioned like, oh, like I would count, like even if this doesn't, you know, take off, like I would still count as a success. So like what would and I can answer it too, but like what would a success be in your eyes for like something like this? And then 2, like what is like kind of through that, like even if that isn't reached, like what is the part that you still want to like ensure happens? Does that make sense?
It does. It makes perfect sense. I would say like honestly, success is like sky's the limit.
Yeah.
In terms of that, but like the minimum bar for like, wow, this would be great is like I would love to like have enough of a viewership to like get sponsorships
Okay.
off of this. Like for it to
That's
be
your
interesting
personal
enough.
outcome. Like,
Right. Like I
yeah.
don't even care necessarily for the money part of it, but more
Yeah.
for like the signal that like people resonate with this.
Got
So
it.
I think there's like two things that I see out of this is like, and like the way that I'm picturing it is like, okay, sponsorship says that this is resonating because like we've got enough viewers that like brands want to invest in getting the eyeballs of the people who pay attention
Yeah.
to like what we're trying to share. The other one, which is like similar, is just like maybe it's like a community thing instead. Like could we build like a community of like people who think and care about the same things that we do, that we can all like do like this show, the things that we're trying to do in the show, like other people want to do it and want to like hang out and do it together, kind of thing. And it's like you could start a community now. I want to give it like I don't want to immediately. Like I want to get like I want to start a community once we've kind of like feel like we've settled into like okay, we've got the flow. Like we know, because I feel like I'm not done YouTube content for like other than just like podcast videos, but like from what I consume and hear about is like there comes a point where like either you figure out nothing's working, like it's not working, or you've like like created enough variation to like nail down like okay, this is resonating a lot more with like this concept, this idea resonates. So it's like once we like figure out like what is resonating with the most people, then we can like try and do something for those people, you know?
Yep. Yep. I like it. Yeah. I'll say like similar. Oh yeah. And if you're like Sam and you're ready to sponsor, hit Will up.
We'll pull the Aaron and Ian and we'll just make like a page on the website, which we have a website that needs to be figured out. We'll talk about that in a second, but
there you go.
We'll just make a page where like people can just like, we'll put like prices.
There you go.
They can just buy them straight from the spot and then tell us what to say.
No, I'm all for, and I think like we're on the same page. I think that's why like obviously like why we both like agree to this. But I think I'm all for that because I'm one of the people that's kind of similar like when I started my YouTube channel or just like started like saying I'm going to take X seriously, and not X meaning just X, formerly known as Twitter, also just like anything I do. Like I never want to like start something and then just be like, like if it takes off, it takes off kind of thing. I want it to be so professional or just like so many plans and like perfected. Obviously, like all of you listening or watching are like in the stages of like, hey, we're figuring this out so that we can make it that way. And I think like that's how the things that have, at least I think I've seen minimal success in like with my content and YouTube channel and stuff like that is because I've literally just pretended like it was something that was much bigger than it is. And I think you kind of have that ceiling where you're like, oh, if I pretend the ceiling is here, then you're going to hit it a lot quicker. But if you pretend it's way up there and like, I literally want this to be like syntax. Like I think when people think of like,
I want to do like like I would love to do like an in-person event of some variety. I don't know what that would ever look like, but I feel like at some point it will make like we will be able to like figure something out. But like, oh man, in person like, that's like why
and refining
all this stuff. Like I've been going to like Laracon, I've been going to like all these things where it's just like, man, I'm doing this because it's like I just love hanging out with like really cool people and like people who are interested in the same thing as me. So like y'all are all like, if I see you, you're cool, by the way. It's not like it's not like don't come talk to me. But anyway, speaking of the lady of the hour, my wife, what resonates with me, getting a new background at Will. Okay, I'm gonna say that I guess this Mid-Journey background was not a success. Next time I will ask for your feedback.
Design opinion, yeah. You might be a designer, but you're not the designer. Like you are not that kind of designer.
Oh, okay. All right, Josh, do you want to say something about like seeing this?
Yeah.
I know you might have some opinions or feelings about this.
Yeah, I think it's less about, so Carl says Laravel version of syntax. I love it. I think maybe like that's an idea. I envision this more of the ability, like what syntax was like when it started out and kind of like what it has grown at is kind of like what I want to embody, of the sense like, yes, in a lot of ways, especially if you listen to some of like the earlier syntax, or just like some of the episodes where like they talk about why they started and what they did. It was just like, it was mostly having a set time to hang out so that they could talk about things that they saw or learned or like looked at that week. And it was, you know, it turned into like what it is today, where like there was different segments, things to talk about, or just like, hey, here's a guest.
And they're both very JavaScript focused.
Yep.
So I get like the Laravel version, but I also think like one thing that you mentioned to me was like, you don't want to like pigeonhole to Laravel per se.
Yeah, if I'm thinking about it from a specific personal standpoint of like my personal goals, like I love Laravel, of course, but I never want to be like, oh, that is all. Like I love creating outside of that, even the creating outside of like development tools in general.
Yeah.
And so I think a better way to say is like, I would love Riff and Refine to be like the syntax for creators.
Now we can let's bring in the name now. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Creators at large.
Why Riff and Refine?
Riff and Rewind.
There we go.
Rewind that back and say
try
it
again.
The right way.
Yeah. I think this is like the concepts that we were trying to figure out was just like, we want this to be very generic in some sense.
Yep. Exactly.
Like,
kind of like what
we don't want it
is
to
saying
be
right here.
Right. It is not coding related. It is not tooling related. It is not for designers. It's like for people who are just trying to make things. Like it could be like, I'll probably talk about woodworking. I'll probably talk about like 3D printing or products. Like
I got a 3D printer.
Super into
I'm ready
it.
to talk
like,
about it.
I went to school for industrial design.
Okay.
So it's like, I love physical products and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, I just want this to be like a podcast for like creative inspiration. Like I want you to listen to this and feel like you are learning more about like, well, like how is somebody actually trying to be creative? Like what is the process for being creative? So it's like, if you are a creative person, then like you can like be inspired to do more. You can like learn about process, but I also want it to be like, look, if somebody is like not a creative minded person, like there might be a lot of developers who are not like how do I come up with something new versus like just like figuring out how to do something that is already exists. Like I would love to just be able to inspire people in like the process of like creating something that is their own, you know? So it's like, that's like the mindset. And the Riff and Refine is like, because that's the creative process. And like we went through, tried to figure out a bunch of like catchy creative names for it. But like the creative process is like, first you have to like consume, you have to expand like your idea of what's possible and try a bunch of different things. What's working, what isn't working, that's the riff. And then you have to refine it. You have to be like, okay, now I've done all these things. Like, how can I like funnel these things in, refine these things down into like something that that is good. Like the job of like creative output is to try everything to be able to filter it down into like a single point of like impact, is like the way that I think about it. And like good design is the result of that process, and like good creative output, like a song or a painting, you know, like it's not just that painting. It's not just the notes that they played for that song. It is like the exploration that went into it. I wish we're going to have to share this on like the next show. But there's like a music related one where like, I'll talk about it when I can actually show it. But I saved this because it felt like this fit it, which was just like the artist was talking about how he was like, man, I was just trying a bunch of things. Like I couldn't figure out, like I couldn't get to figure out what I needed to do. And then all of a sudden I hit like this one, like this one hook, like this one series of notes, and like everything clicked. Like all of a sudden, all of my exploration, that one thing clicked, and I was able to like create the rest of what I needed because like I just knew the moment I heard it. And I feel like that with like a lot of creative work, like you just have to do the work of riffing, because at some point you'll hit this point where you're like, I know exactly what I need to do to like create something that feels refined.
Yep, exactly. And I think like I'm right on the same track in the sense that I think I even have started wanting to like call myself less of a creative in some ways, because I really am leaning towards like the term of like a maker. Like I really enjoy taking things from an idea to putting it out in some shape or form so that people can say like, hey, like I look at something and be like, I made that. And whether that's like online or like
that. I like that.
I just got like a 3D printer and I love it.
Yep.
And or like I have been starting, like I did this a lot in college, but I've been starting to like write more sketch comedy or just like skits in general. I've been writing more music this year than I have in the past. And I've done all those things like in some way, shape, or form, but like I want to, one, kind of like what you said, have like a way, and like the Riff and Refine name I think leans into this. Like I want people to take away from this when they're listening to it, be like, oh, maybe like a new idea or an existing idea that's been living around in their head that they're like, oh, maybe I can actually like follow up on that. Like I want you to be rejuvenated or like excited to go and do the thing that you've been wanting to do for like the last couple of years. Absolutely. But then to also like learn about a new, whether it's a new tool, saw something cool, or even just like, you know, like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. Like I've been really into.
Yes, that's a good one. That like that's programming. A big one for me. Yeah. MIDI programming.
Like
audio stuff, like
but using it for computer automation. Like any like what? In the sense that
like you're using like a MIDI pad, but like it's like a keyboard kind of thing.
Yep. Basically
stuff with it.
Yeah, like so for example, I've been tinkering around with the idea of because these lights, for example, they cannot be controlled. There's no like Stream Deck plugin to control them because they're Govee lights.
Okay.
But Govee has an API. And so if I use a MIDI keyboard or just MIDI notes and then use those to control the API, all of a sudden you can just play a little ditty and it will play on the lights behind me.
Yes. Okay. Carl put this up and I'm like, this is like what I'm talking about. Like this is like it sounds ridiculous, but it could be possible. Maybe not to code per se, but like one thing that I'm like very into is just like generative art, generative algorithms of some kind. That's actually when we start the full episodes, I will be talking about my Laracon talk that is coming up in July. And like there's like a part of it where I do some like generative stuff. And like this is part of it where it's like I like it conceptually, and I can talk more about that in detail later, but like conceptually, like what's so interesting to me about like generative art, generative things is, it has been done. Carl, if you don't share a link, I need to know.
We'll find that person and get them on the
so
on the show.
The thing that I like about it is like the idea is that it's like you can take anything as input and control what you want the output to be. And like they can be as unconnected or disconnected as you want them to be.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be at Laracon, then we're gonna have to sing happy birthday. Carl said it's his birthday 4 days before Laracon. So I think that like that concept itself is very cool. It's like your inputs can be who knows what, and you can like your job as the maker or the creative person is that like you get to take all these different types of inputs and control into like some kind of output that has meaning to you, to others, like whatever that is. And that's just like super fun to explore.
Yep. I agree. I think there's never a set process of like, this is what you need to do in order to get something that you're making from start to finish. But
until you've done it once or twice.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the other fun part, which is like, and why we always try to create new things, because it's like you can refine process as well to like become repeatable. But like,
your process to riff and to refine and to like find all the little ways of like, oh, the last time I tried to make a SaaS, like here are the things I know absolutely sucked, and I will never do them again in that way.
Exactly.
But then all of a sudden, like the next time you make a SaaS, it's just gonna be better because you've done it before. You know the process of the process is not going to change in the sense that you're like the ideas that you come to and like how you're building it, that might change drastically. But
your taste is changing. Like your taste adapts to the number of times that you've done a thing. The more you do it, the easier it is to like perfect and like get a better understanding of like what you do and do not like, and what like your audience like. That's like another thing, which is like and we don't have to keep waxing poetic on this, but I think this is like the point. The reason why we're doing this is like I want to start identifying the audience, like who we are defining as the audience for this show, because I want to know the type of things that they are looking for as well. And I think that only happens by us like doing the show for long enough. Like you've got to be in the game long enough, putting out various material in the like we know we want to be doing something related to creativity. Or making things. We want to be sharing inspiration, sharing process, sharing like those type of things, talking to people who are doing the same things as well. So it's not just me and Josh all the time.
Yeah.
But like through doing that, hopefully over a period of time, we can start to understand what resonates. And like that to me is like when we can really hone in on like upping our production quality. Because it's like we now understand the people who like us. Like, why do they like us? What do they like? What are they getting inspired by? What are they going and like talking about? It's like what Aaron said, which is like making the public API for yourself. We're also making a public API for our show. Like, what do people like? If we've been doing this long enough, like, what are people tagging us on? Like, are they sharing creative things and tagging us? Being like, hey, like, look what I made, guys. Like, oh, I made this thing because of like this thing you shared on your show. Like, to me, that would be like one of the early bars of success, of like knowing that we're really starting to like figure it out, is like people start making things and sharing because they're like, hey, your show, watching an episode inspired me to try this, and this is what it turned out to be. I would love that. That would like make my day. Cool. I think are we gonna like, is this gonna be like an hour long? This is what we mean, guys, by like we're literally figuring this out as we go. Like
I think
1:30 to 2:30 Central.
And 1:32. I think 1:32:30 Central, like an hour, is like a good length of time, especially for like, if you're listening to this in like podcast form or like watching a video in the background, that kind of thing. I feel like an hour is a good length of time. Hour and a half. Like I feel like it would be like the thing to shoot for. Like if we wanted to expand on a certain segment, or if we had a guest, like I'm fine with it being shorter or longer.
Ooh, that's
depending on it.
Like we need to figure out guest stuff for sure. Which is like, how do we invite guests? I don't know if we do live versions with guests. Like I almost think like guests need to be guests need to be a more produced thing?
Interesting.
Or do we just need to be like whatever like the show, like whatever like we're just gonna jump on here? Part of me is like, some people might not join because it's live, because they may be like not comfortable with like not having, they might not like fully relax into the situation. Whereas like you and me are very like comfortable just like riffing, like getting on here and just like, who knows, I might say something stupid, I don't care,
But maybe we leave that up to like the guest. I think having it by default be live would be great, and then maybe like if the guest is like, okay, I can't, then maybe like, oh, that's one we do during the week and we can like publish later, kind of thing.
True.
Like I think it makes it easier also like for our guests, like, hey, if you want to join us, it is literally this time of
I
the
do
week.
Like that. Like it's
when we record.
It's like less ops work for us on the back end. It's like,
less back and forth.
We can just schedule. It's always Friday at this time. If that works for you, come on. We'd love to have you.
If it doesn't,
otherwise,
let us know, and we'll
probably
figure
still going
to
talk about you and your stuff, but like we won't get to hear from you specifically.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it looks like most people in the chat are agreeing too. Patricio on code says live is great. Carl says let him riff. Sam says doing things live. Definitely be easier on you up front, though.
It will be definitely easier for us. I agree.
We like easy things.
We do.
We like doing things hard way
until we can figure out the process. Because it's like, I feel like that's like one of the things I want to talk about too in the show, which is just like,
I can riff on that.
There will be some meta stuff related to the podcast, just around like, how are we like podcasting in like live video, etc. Like that kind of stuff is, I would assume something the people who would be joining this would be interested in. So sharing, hey, like this is how we started doing it. Here's how I've like perfected it since then. I've noticed that like things that like pop off for you a lot of times, like the things that jump into my feed a lot more are like when you're sharing how you like your OBS setup, like how you set up OBS, etc., like that kind of stuff. So like I think people, it's very interesting to see like process even, and like this is one of the things we're making. So like why not share how we're like doing a better job of it?
And I think kind of like what going back to like, oh, like I've always like the future goal is like, oh, we want this to be like professional, and then we want this to like have sponsorships, all that. Like I think it's really cool when you can look back and be like, oh, that they literally figured this out together of like, here's the process that we want to do, here's the segments that we want to do, like here's how we're going to name it, and everything that kind of goes in those ways too, because then you have the ability to, okay, when we're figuring this out together now, like imagine this blows up, has like, you know, thousands of weekly viewers. All of a sudden, like you get to see the process it took to get there. And then people who are also in the same part and they're in step one with us, who are like, I want to make something. Well, now you have like at least one other example of other people who have done it.
Yes. 100%. Could not agree more. I think it'll be interesting because I think we've got a lot of, there's just like so much potential for like ways to do this. Like that's, I think, the problem with like a lot of like making and creative tasks is like there are literally like so many options. So like sometimes it's not even like the techniques. Like it's not like, okay, well, here's how I'm doing it. Like, sure, like I'm smart enough to be able to figure out how to do something.
Yeah.
But like, why did you do it that way? That's a lot bigger. Like, how did you come to that decision? Because like I may not be doing the same thing as you, but if I understand how you were thinking about approaching that thing, then like I know how I can adapt like your line of reasoning to what I'm trying to do. So I think sharing that is like something that could be valuable. One thing that we're also talking about doing that we were going to do, because I already set up an account on Bento, because I've been like literally chomping at the bit to have a Bento account and be,
I love Bento
customers.
Sponsored by Bento.
Yes, Jesse is an incredible guy. Such a kind guy. I actually have a really good story about him that I'll share in a different episode. But I set up an account with him because I think one thing we want to do is like a newsletter portion to this too. Like this is a live show. Obviously, it will be in a podcast feed at some point. And like there's the YouTube. But I also think like there's going to be a lot that's like mentioned in a lot more like yapping kind of way on the show that could be condensed into something a little more consumable for people. And I think having like a newsletter to say like, hey, like here's like the recap of this week that includes the updates from Will and Josh, the interesting links that they saw. And I also think there's like space to do like, I think at some point
to call it like Riff and Refine refined.
Refined. A Riff and Refined newsletter.
Yeah, Riff and Refined. There you go.
But it's like like I noticed this with me and Allie. Like I just start taking notes of like, well, now that I've got a show, like now that I had a show where we were sharing things about parenting and like hilarious things that happens with kids and just like with our relationship and being a stay-at-home, like work from home guy with a teacher, like I start tracking, oh, this would be interesting to talk about. This would be great to talk about. Like, oh, let's bring up this and talk through this. And I've now got like a huge list of things that we will never talk about.
Yeah.
Because like we just can't get to everything.
Yep.
And I think that will be the case with this, where it's like there will only be so much that makes it into an hour-long show. But we want to be able to share more. And like having a newsletter feels like a really good way to like
To do
have a
that.
direct connection to the audience, to share things that don't make it onto the show but are like still very interesting. Also
Yeah.
like a way to be like, okay, like let's make a maybe we like you've been going down this rabbit hole of something specific, and it's like, oh hey, like I've been looking at this, and like here are like links that I thought were really good for like getting started. Here's like something I've made with it. Like you take this and run with it. Love to hear from like we can write our own like from Will, from Josh of like,
Yeah.
hey, I've been like really thinking about this one thing a lot and like just wanted to share it with y'all.
Yeah. I think like there's going to be so much stuff. Like for example, like on my linear board of like videos I want to make, they're literally, I think most of them are actually pretty good ideas, but there's 130 of them. I'm never going to get to them.
Snap.
Um,
That's a lot of ideas, Josh. Yeah, man, I love it.
but like with this, there's probably going to be like, oh, if we nail down like a segment of like, hey, here's like, 3 things that I'm looking at over the next week. But what happens to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Well, I think that's a perfect outlet for it. If we can provide just like what this show I think is being for me personally, I think for you personally, if this show becomes like the outlet for things that we're doing that doesn't make it into other segments, well, then the newsletter becomes the outlet for things that we didn't get to do on the show.
Right. Exactly. With a little curation. What's the word? There's like a
refinement.
Yeah, that's like the word. We're gonna use it.
It's the word of the day.
So much, but there's another word for that people use. This is gonna happen for all of y'all when you're looking for like repetitive bits. The bit is going to be Will has an idea in his head of something, but can't remember the right word for it. So
you need a process for that.
I do need Allie. Allie is Allie. What's the word for?
Allie will be like the like what is it on like Allie will be like our Jamie like in Joe Rogan's podcast or like pull it up for me. Like,
yeah, can you pull that up for me? My cheat. Yeah.
How do you want to end this? Do you want to do do you want to kick it off with like 1 or 2 things like you learn, and then maybe like hey, what's next for the podcast or you in the next week?
Let's each share like one thing that we're working on.
Sweet.
And like so that like next week, let's talk about like what we will talk about next week and like check back in on like that thing.
And maybe even like a podcast version, like, okay, what do we need to do this week before next week kind of thing?
Yeah, 100% need to do that. So
sweet. So you want to kick it off?
Talk podcast first. We've set up branding. We've got our streaming set up with StreamYard. We've got StreamYard.
Not sponsored.
I have set up a Bento account, and I have published a Laravel website to Laravel Cloud called riffrefine.com. You can go there.
Sponsored, I guess. I don't know.
It does nothing. It is. They are fantastic people. Happy to freely do that. I mean, it's on your shirt. I mean, we're not going to get away from it. So, I think coming up, what we ran into literally already is like, how do we share files? Like what is like, we're going to be making video assets, creative assets. Like how do we share those back and forth with each other? Like I've never had to do this before with somebody else. So like
probably that out. I have been, this is not one of my links, but I did buy like the Google Gemini like Plus, and so now I have like 8 terabytes of Google Drive or whatever. Ooh, so that might be a good option.
That could be.
I also have used WeTransfer before for like individual large files, but yeah.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Duly noted. Well, we need to figure that out. Yep. I need to actually set up the newsletter. So this kind of goes hand to hand. I need to make an update for the website that is like, puts the name, we've already got the artwork, maybe puts like a little summary.
Okay.
And like, eventually we'll do like a whole grid of like content, like episodes, etc. But like for just right now, I think we need to have like hey, like we're Josh and Will, this is what we're trying to do. If you're interested, like sign up to the newsletter and have like a form, like just some sort of landing page that we can start capturing people's email and hook that up to Bento. That needs to happen. And then I think we already on this show figured out like how we're going to like try and schedule guests. I think it's just like, hey, we use StreamYard. We do it every Friday from 1:30 to 2:30.
Then probably
We'd
like
love to have
another
you on.
form on the website, right? For
Yeah,
that.
something like
Just
that. That'd be
/guest.
perfect. /guest.
Yeah.
I love that. I think one thing that we could try to figure out too is just like get a list of segments. And I think for like the next few episodes, we just start trying the different segments
Yeah.
and just getting a feel for like what we like.
I like it. Yeah. So maybe like next show have like, because we have like, I think we have like 4 or 5 different ideas for segments. So next show we try out one or two kind of thing.
Yeah,
I like it.
that. I would love to get to a point where it's like the whole show is segmented. Like we can go straight from like,
it's not just riffing.
We start the show with this. This is like these segments are what is happening in the show in this order.
I like it.
Kind of thing. So it's
easy for people to know, like listening week to week of like, this is what I can expect from this.
Right. And like, they'll be very like, there will be some, I think we've already got some ideas for like segments that are extremely specific, but I think they're also just like general, like this is the Will and Josh update segment where it's like, we talk about like the things that we are personally working on.
It also helps the plan too, because then we can be like, oh, this is 15 minutes. And then this has to be 30 minutes. And like, we can have that segmented in our notion of like, hey,
100%.
Now we know this is exactly what's happening in the next 3 shows kind of thing.
Also,
I think one of the things
know how to share links on this. Like, how do we share, like when we have links and things to share, like for people, like if we wanted people to like look at it during the show, like how do we push out chat?
Probably in like the description area of like YouTube. That's probably the best way, right? Yeah, that's something to think through. Something to riff.
Yeah.
Riff and refine.
Anyway.
I also think like I want to build in addition to people who are signing up on the website for like newsletter, I want to build like, instead of like an ask question, because like maybe that comes in the future, who knows?
Yeah.
But like have like a submit form. Like, I don't know what the name for it is, but like, oh, here's something cool I found. I don't want to talk about it. And maybe like but you're just like, hey, I found this. You should know about
y'all
this.
This is cool. I think y'all would like this.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Because then then like people are literally making content for us. As again, I'm a fan of like making things easy. Yeah. While also easier for me, but also
this was like something that I thought about. I mean, I'll put this on the list. We'll talk about it next time. But there's just this idea of like your window of consumption these days. It's very hard to get out of the algorithms. Yeah. And sometimes the best stuff is being hidden from you because there's an algorithm to things. But anyway, that's like something I would love to like talk about more for like how to find more broad-reaching inspiration. But
I like it. Yeah, not something that's just our little bubble.
Yep, 100%.
Okay, all right. That's the podcast.
That's the podcast.
What's you?
For me, I am working on my Laracon talk. That is like the big thing. I've got to like have it done by the start of July. The conference at the end of July. And I would love to like, I don't think it's like that big of a deal to like talk about some of the, like, I'm not in my conference talk. It's not like, I want to talk about the thing that I'm making for the conference talk, because there's a lot of details that I will not get into during the talk, because the talk's very kind of a higher level thing, and it's just more of like a wow moment. So I'd love to talk about like share like details and like how I'm doing it and like techniques and stuff that I'm using. Yeah. That's my thing. Sweet. What about you?
One of the things I'm kind of like learning and also just building is I've always wanted to make a mobile application. So one, I got the chance to try out native PHP, but I'm also building it in Expo.
Just like compare the two.
Yeah, and it's mostly going to be for like I've never tried like I've tried a bunch of like B2B SaaS application ideas.
Right.
But I want to do like a B2C and something that I know really well. So
product. Yeah.
This is building a for my church. People take notes in weird ways, like when you go to church, and this is probably like across like multiple different religions as well. But most people take notes and then they just like either throw them away or forget about them in the week. And so my idea for like this app is you record the whole sermon just
Mm-hmm.
on your phone,
Mm-hmm.
background recording. So basically, like think of it like if you've used like Notion's note taking
Right.
stuff, or like what's another one? Granola has
Granola,
one.
like the meeting, AI meeting
Yep.
type stuff.
But what if you had that for like
Just in-person
church?
conversations.
Yeah, in-person conversations. If I'm doing it specifically for church because like I know about it
Yeah.
really well. So like I'm like I want that, and then like I want like during the week I want to be like, hey, here's like 3 things that you should probably like continue reading about. That's based off of what you
Like
already know.
like summarize, like, and it would be even better because
Duolingo, but
you can provide context. Like I think
Yep.
it'd be great. So I'm gonna riff on it immediately.
there you go.
No, I'm not. We're close to time. Let's riff on it next
Closing
week
time.
because I love that, and I've got some like ideas that I want to throw at you to be like to see if they like resonate with you.
Sweet.
So.
Yeah, no, I have still been in the exploratory slash I have an Expo app that talks to a Laravel app and then have authentication and recording down.
Cool.
So like I have like the very bare bones, bones. But yeah, like that is probably going to be the next couple of weeks of segments for the Riff Refine portion.
Like a good series. Oops, excuse me. So a good series of content where it's just like, hey, here's how I'm like. If you are a big like, if you love Laravel, here's how you can like do that with like mobile as well. Whether it's through native PHP or just like native PHP is probably still something that it's very new, so it's probably missing. There's a lot of like unfeature completeness that like more mature things might have for the time being. So it's like here's how you can also do it with like a more mature framework as well.
Yeah, all the pitfalls that I fell into. That
man, I love that.
Make for good content.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay. Orkward. He's an anon on X, but he is like one of my favorite follows. He's a design engineer.
Okay.
This is obviously not his name or what he looks like, because he was just like, yeah, I just wanted to like talk about work stuff in a way that was like anonymous so that like I wouldn't get outed for saying these things. And then all of a sudden like this profile blew up and now I'm like making like friends and interactions with people.
There you go. So you were
you should go follow. He's hilarious.
Orkward's literally building in public with a Twitter profile.
Love it. All right, well, that's all for me, Josh.
Awesome.
For today, it's not all for me. The funny thing is I feel like we're going to end every single episode like the signs of a good episode is like we're going to have to stop ourselves and we're going to be like so inspired to like
keep going,
get going on something, which is great because it like it's going to be on Fridays rolling into the weekends. So
you gotta let it simmer for a little bit too.
Yeah,
gotta let it marinate, and then we can riff and refine it tomorrow.
100%. And we are going to we'll get this podcast feed set up. Obviously, Transistor, love Transistor.fm. And we will, I think the plan is for us to like try to do some sort of, we haven't decided how much editing or how much like refining to do on the live recordings before pushing them into a feed. But I imagine like they will be pretty raw, other than like maybe editing like some sort of like intro or outro type stuff to it.
Yeah.
But we'll push that into a feed. We'll probably push it into like that's something to talk about next time. I definitely think we obviously push it into a podcast feed. I'd be curious to know, like, I would assume we'd want to like make a YouTube podcast like thing and push the videos, even though we have the live recordings, push a edited version into a podcast feed. So we're kind of hitting on those engines, the podcast engines that YouTube uses to like recognize what you're doing as a podcast.
And that might be the one that we can, maybe even like the video can be even more refined than the podcast, where it's like more of like a, more like the newsletter type thing.
Totally. That's why I was like trying to not jump into like, like how much do we cut? Like we can also like clip out about, like I could see like segments being pulled out into like, oh, like what if we like for YouTube
their own clips
took a live video and took the segments and made individual like videos that can be dripped out over a week. Like if you were there for Friday, the live you got all the segments all at once. But otherwise, like Monday we drop this segment, Tuesday's this one. I don't know, like
I like that.
Just riffing.
I like that. A little bit less pressure to like get it done quickly. It could be like like next, Tuesday, Thursday kind of thing, or whatever that might be, and then you record it again.
Yes, 100%. And we'll figure out process and everything for that. All right, this last one I'm gonna answer. Then we gotta be done. All right. The answer is like, yes, I do have a nice setup for a in-person podcast, but that's all downstairs, like in our like living room, and I'm doing this during nap times every Friday, so I can't go down there and be my loud self. And also, I'm like not at my desk and don't have a computer accessible. But maybe I can do that. Like those panels that I have, I bet the panels could work here instead of this like green screen background potentially, or I'll just make a better green screen background. Who knows?
Portable.
Yeah. They are portable. I have to move them because they're in our dining room. I have to move them every time we finish recording. So it's quite a workout. I cannot wait. Maybe if we get enough sponsorships, Will can actually get like a studio.
It'll be like our like a GoFundMe goal.
There we go. GoFundMe.
Get Will better. Get Will better set up.
Make Will
have Josh fly out to build something for Will.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. I would love that so much. That would be an incredible, like we could do an in-person thing and you could like bring your family. There's plenty of room. We could just
that'd be great content too.
That we've got,
if I was like
building the cottage in the backyard, your kids would love to do that. Cause I think your kids are about the same age as mine. Mine's 5, 3 and 1.
Yep. Mine's 3 and almost 2.
Josh, and not Josh, Emmett put the studio in the kitty cabin in the backyard.
There you go.
If I had internet and power back there, that would be the move. There we go.
We'll run an Ethernet cable.
Yep. There we go. All right.
Awesome. Well, yeah. For those who are watching, those who are listening, thank you so much for being here on the initial. This is the FVAT commit
season 0.
Season 0. But yeah, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Next Friday. All right. See ya.